Hello, it's Thursday. So a couple of weeks ago, I did the Pokemon Catch and Stitch video, and then I let you guys all vote on which pattern you wanted to see, and of course, Vileplume was the answer, which was a little surprising because I genuinely thought that Articuno was going to win. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's talk tools and materials. So to make Vileplume today, you're going to need 8-ply 100% acrylic yarn in 3 colors. You're going to need a bright orange, a juicy watermelon type color, though red would work just as well, and a mid-blue tone. You are also going to need a pair of 9mm safety eyes, your 3.5mm hook, pins and needles, scissors, and some stuffing. You're also going to need either some white yarn or some white felt to add the markings to the top of his flower, as well as a scrap amount of white and a scrap amount of black to stitch on his little face.
So a written version of Vileplume will be made available to my patrons, but will not be listed on my Etsy because I'm just not looking to start beef with Nintendo.
So today we are going to be starting by making the little volcano beaker of a body, which starts up here in the orange, works its way all the way down to his bud. So start by grabbing your orange. And we begin with a magic ring of 6. We're then going to put an increase into each stitch around to get us up to 12. Like so. We're then going to work 2 rows of 12 single crochet around for a combined total of 24 stitches. So that little cup is going to form the inside of his little flower well. We're then going to work 12 front post single crochet around. So post crochet is when you work around the post of the stitch instead of through the loops. And because this is front post, we're going to work around the post from the front of the piece back to the front of the piece. So yarn over and pull up a loop, then yarn over and complete the stitch. So there is our first one, and we're going to work 11 more of those around. We're then going to work 6 repeats of a single crochet and then an increase. So there is our first one, and we're going to work that 5 more times around. This should bring your row up to 18 stitches in total. We're then going to work 18 back post single crochet around, and we do that by inserting our hook around the post of the stitch from the back of the work back to the back of the work, and then yarning over and then building our single crochet as per usual. So there is our first one, and we have 17 more of those to do around. So you're then going to work 3 rows of 18 single crochet around for a combined total of 54 stitches. Now in the last stitch of row 10, we're going to change to our blue. So in order to work that color change, I'm going to frog the last stitch we just did and use it to make our color change instead. So all I do is I insert my hook into the stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, hold my orange out of the way, grab a strand of my blue, pinch it on the inside at the base of the stitch, yarn over and complete the stitch with it. And then just tug on my orange tail to settle the stitch down. So what that's done is left us with a completed stitch in our orange, but our new color is on our hook, ready to go. So in our blue, we're going to start by working 2 rows of 18 single crochet around for a combined total of 36. Like so. So there we are at the end of row 12. Now at this point, I'm going to trim off my orange. And if you've been able to resist this long, kudos to you, but we're going to take this top bubble and we're going to poke it down inside, allowing that row of back post single crochet we did in row 7 to form the rim around the outside. And then basically the front post single crochet we did in row 5 is just going to help keep that tucked down in there. So this is a minor adjustment from the original to the version I'm showing today. It just gives him a slightly more open pollen hole, which I think looks better. So in the next row of our blue, we are going to work 2 repeats of 3 single crochet and an increase, then 4 single crochet, and an increase. So that's our first one, and you're going to repeat that just 1 more time. And that should get your row up to 22 stitches around. And should also just encourage this very slight square shape to it. We're then going to work 2 rows of 22 single crochet for a combined total of 44 stitches. So there we are at the end of row 15. Row 16 is a single crochet, an increase, 10 single crochet, an increase, and then 9 single crochet back to the start of our row, leaving us with 24 stitches in our round. We're then just going to work 3 rounds of 24 single crochet for a combined total of 72 stitches. So there we are at the end of row 19. So we're going to work 1 more row and then we'll stop and put our eyes in. So row 20 is 2 single crochet and then single crochet 3 together. So how I do that is insert my hook into the front loops only of the next 3 stitches, yarn over and pull up a loop through all 3, then yarn over and pull through the 2 loops on your hook. That's basically a decrease over 3 stitches. We are then going to work 3 repeats of 3 single crochet and then a single crochet 3 together. So there is our first one, and we're going to do that 2 more times. So 2. And 3. We then have just 1 single crochet to work to finish the round. So I'm going to grab my eyes, and you should be able to identify that we've got kind of these 2 little corners. It's a little square shape underneath, so those corners should be on either side. Now there is no right or wrong way to face your little dude, but I'm going to say the side with my active loop on it at the moment is his front. Then I'm going to count 6 rows down into my blue, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And position my eyes so that they have 3 stitches visible between them. So they should be quite low on the head with a little bit of space between them. Like so. Then pop your backs on. Like so. So at this point, we're also going to stuff his little body. And we do that by tearing our stuffing into little cotton ball sized puffs and just adding it 1 puff at a time. So you do want to work it in as far as it'll let you go, but you probably don't need to stuff these first couple of rows. And be careful not to overstuff. We don't want his innie to become an outie. When you're happy with how stuffed your little beaker is, we can work our final 2 rows. So row 21 is 4 repeats of a single crochet and then single crochet 3 together. So there's 1, and now we're going to do that 3 more times, which should bring your row down to 8 stitches. Like so. And then we're going to work 4 decreases. And finish off. Now you will be left with just a tiny opening at the base, so take your tail and pull it through the front loops only of your 4 remaining stitches. Then tuck that end away inside. So there is the body of Vileplume. So at this point, I'm going to take a little bit of white yarn and just add the whites of his eyes. Just like that. And then I'm going to take a little bit of black and just stitch on a small mouth. Being careful not to pull that too tightly. So, now that that piece is finished, we are going to make his arms and legs. Now, just in case there's any confusion here, because I can see where it might come from, these are his feet, the front here, and then he's leaning back on his arms. So originally when I made these pieces, these were meant to be his hands and these were meant to be his legs and feet. But when I went to pin the pieces on, he just really wanted to be in this little pose. So I ended up just going with it. So that's what we're doing today. So grabbing our blue once again, we're going to start with a magic ring of 6. We're then going to work 6 single crochet around. And then 2 single crochet a decrease, and 2 single crochet to get our row down to 5 stitches. You're then going to work a row of 5 single crochet around. And then row 5 is a single crochet, an increase, a single crochet, and then a decrease. Then row 6 is the exact same thing again. And finish off. Tuck your starting tail down inside the hand. So there is his little arm, and you do need to make 2 of those. But pop them to one side for now. So next up are his feet, which we make by working a magic ring of 6. Then 2 single crochet, a decrease, and 2 single crochet to get us down to 5 stitches around. And then you're just going to work 2 rows of 5 single crochet around for a combined total of 10 stitches. And finish off. So there is one little foot, and you are going to need 2 of those as well. So pop those to one side too. So the final piece we need to make are his big juicy petals. So grab your red or your pink, whichever you're using. I love this color. It's just not quite red, it's not quite pink, it's tasty. It's a tasty color. And we're going to start by chaining 6. Then we're going to turn, and starting in the second chain from our hook, we are going to work 4 single crochet along those chains. And then we're going to work 3 single crochet all into that final chain, and we're going to do it in such a way that it turns our work. So we'll start by working 1 normally, and then turning the piece so we're working in like the top point of it, but we're actually just working into that same chain again. And then turn again, and a final single crochet into that same chain. So that's what we mean when we say we work an increase or 3 single crochet in the same stitch to turn your work. So we're looking here at the backs of the loops, and we're going to start by working 3 single crochet back along them. And then in our final one, which we should have worked a single crochet into basically at the start, we're going to work an increase. Now all of this sounds woefully crooked, but just trust me, it works. So there is the first row of our petals. So we're going to work this in a continuous spiral from here on out. So the first stitch of row 2 goes in that first single crochet we worked. So row 2 is 2 repeats of 5 single crochet, and then 3 single crochet all into the same stitch. So there is our first repeat, and we're going to do it again on the other side of the petal. Which will leave you with 16 stitches in your round. In row 3, you're going to do 2 repeats of 6 single crochet, three single crochet into the same stitch, and then a single crochet to bring you up to 20 stitches around. We We then have one more row of increases. So this time it's 2 repeats of 7 single crochet. Then 3 single crochet into the same stitch. And then 2 single crochet. This should bring you up to 24 stitches in your round. We then have one row of 24 stitches around. Like so. So from here on out, we'll be slowly closing it in on either side to narrow us down to the point that goes against the head. So we start with 2 repeats of 8 single crochet. And then a decrease. And then 2 single crochet. So there is our first repeat, and we're just going to do that again. So that should bring your row down to 22 stitches around. Then in row 7, we have 2 repeats of 7 single crochet. Single crochet 3 together. And then a single crochet. So there's our first repeat, and we're going to do that again to bring our row down to 18 stitches. Row 8 is 2 repeats of 7 single crochet and then a decrease to get us down to 16 stitches around. Row 9 is 2 repeats of 6 single crochet and then a decrease to get us down to 14 stitches around. Row 10 is 2 repeats of 5 single crochet and then a decrease to get us down to 12 stitches around. And then finally, row 11 is just 12 single crochet around and finish off. Finish off. So there is your finished petal, and we're going to need 5 of those in total. Okay, so the next thing we have to do is add on some of these white markings. And I want you to take a second and just really look at these markings. So I think that overall they give the impression of being like, oh, really specific and cool and placed perfectly for this little guy. But if you actually look at all of them, they are a hot mess. Like, look how uneven some of these are. So in this next step, I want you to not take yourself too seriously, okay? Try and have some fun with it. So we're going to grab our petal. We're going to put a little bit of stuffing into it, and we're going to stuff it to about this line here. We want to leave the last couple of rows empty. So just like that. So we're empty up till about there. You can see that if you kind of look inside. So for my white spots, I'm obviously going to be stitching them on like I did with my original, but you don't have to do it this way. You could also use felt or needle felting techniques to add your white spots instead. So I'm going to grab my needle with some white or cream attached to it. I'm going with white. And then I'm just going to put 6 to 7 little white spots onto the petal. And I'm just using what I know as long stitch. There's probably another name for it now, but growing up, you know, you can get like cross stitch patterns. Well, long stitch patterns used to be a thing as well. Don't know if they still are. I don't think you see them anywhere anymore. And yeah, they're just basically making lots and lots and lots of longer than average stitches to form shapes. I would also suggest that you not make all of your petals look exactly the same. Again, if you look at this guy here, you'll note that there's quite a bit of variation between them, and I actually think that that helps. I think that that's a good look for this guy. And you only need to do the tops of the petals, you don't need to do the undersides. there we go. I've gone with 7 little spots there. Again, see what a hot mess that is on its own? When it's in amongst the others, it'll look fine. I will say I do tend to give 1 or 2 large ones at the tip of the flower, so you can see that here. And then like a handful of smaller ones as we get closer to the open end. So then I'm just going to repeat that for all 5 petals. Okay, so now we have all of our pieces. The time has come to assemble. So I'm going to attach his arms and legs first, and then we'll come back and do the flower. So first up, I'm going to grab these little feet. So those are the smallest nubs you have. And we're going to position them just on the outside of each of his eyes. I need my turtle. So there, so we're talking right at the bottom of the body piece, just on one side of one eye, and then the outside of the other eye as well. Kicking his little feet up, plonk him down to make sure that he sits at this point, just like that. That's what it looks like from underneath. And then we're just going to grab his arms as well. And you'll note that his arms have a little bit of a turn to them. So this side here is going to be facing towards the back. So the tops of these arms are going to be attached level with the eyes. And they're going to curve towards the front so that that inner curve is pointing upwards. Don't know if that makes sense, but it's kind of like he's leaning back on his hands. And so just think of how your arm would bend if you were leaning back on your hands. So with those pinned on, just make sure that the hand is touching the ground when he's sitting. Oh, you've got all kinds of snacks over there. Hey, check to make sure he's stable. Now don't let the edit fool you on this. I spent a good 5 to 10 minutes just repositioning these limbs until they were exactly where I wanted them to be, so that all 4 of them touched the ground when he was placed in a seated position, and so that it looked like he was comfortably chilling leaning back on his hands. So do take your time with that step. But when you're happy, I want you to grab the same blue that you used for your body and sew all 4 of those on. Like so. So don't mind too much if your little guy is hovering a little bit like mine is. You probably can't see that on camera, but his bottom is domed out a little bit. The weight of his petals will help squish him down into a more seated position. So at this point, we're going to grab our petals and we're going to pin those on. So I have very helpfully, if I do say so myself, provided you with this nice line that is going to help you line up all of your petals. So grab the one that you think looks the nicest. I'm going to go with this one. And you're going to position that one over the top of the line between your orange and your blue, so that the open side falls one side on either side of that line. And this should be directly above his face, like the cap of like a baseball cap. Like so. So there is his first petal. And we're then going to pin the others around the edge in the exact same way. Now there will be little gaps between the tops of your petals. We will sew that shut later. So for now, just focus on evenly spacing those petals around the body. So this is a tight fit. So I find to get mine all to fit, what I do is I grab this opening and I bend it, the corners of them in slightly. So it's attaching them more like this little frowny face than in a straight line. That's also going to help your petals appear thicker and juicier too. So now we have those all pinned in place. We're going to use a little bit more of our petal color to sew them on. Just as a note on this, now that you've got the spacing correct, you might find it easier to pull some of them off to give you a little bit more space for the sewing. But because I use my curved needle, I find I can get into tighter spaces than I otherwise could. And so I'm just going to leave them all pinned and sew them all on the way they are. So you'll see I'm sewing around the top of each petal first. And then I go around a second time sewing on the bottom. And you have to be careful to remove all of the pins as you go around. Every rose has its thorns, but Vileplume does not have pins. And then we just want to tuck all of our ends in. Now, we haven't trimmed out our needle off yet because we still have to go around and just attach our petals together. So what I'm going to do is thread my way up to the widest point on the petal. Like so. Then I'm just going to do a little stitch to join it to the widest point of the petal next to it. I'm then going to thread through to the next one and just repeat it the whole way around until all of the petals are joined together. I have just enough yarn. I love it when that happens. Then tuck your end down inside one of the petals to hide it away. And there is your finished Vileplume.
So there is our finished flower boy. I hope you had fun making him with me today. So I am happy to announce at this point that I have scheduled Pokemon Catch and Stitch Gen 2, so you can watch out for that in a couple of weeks. Other than that, I'll see you next week. Okay, bye!